Okay, I will call to order the July 2015 Board of Aviation Commissioners meeting. I will note for the roll call that Commissioners Gaynor and Fuschelberger are absent. I believe Mr. Fuschelberger will be here shortly, but we do have quorum, and we will continue with the approval of the June 9th regular meeting minutes.
I move we approve. I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And next I will move on to the approval of the July 2015 claims dockets.
One question on blue something.
Blue globes?
Yeah. Forgot what that is.
They're a supplier of airfield lighting. Globes. The globes that go on top. Transformers. I don't remember exactly what it was. Runway, taxiway, any of those.
Those are the glass covers, right?
Yes, or the transformers that go underground, all of the tubes. And I'm not sure, did we have an order that went through? Carlos, you want to explain what that runway lighting for Blue Globes was?
Yeah, what was the amount? What was it?
It was $1,157.
And it was just this
That was
last.
to replace a large number of lights that had been damaged due to construction, and also some FAA required parts for the inside that has to get replaced to get in compliance with the new regulations.
That was part of our
vacancy. The vast majority of that was the big majority was replacing inventory on the resurface.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Does that just come out of our budget?
I'm not sure how much a part of it the construction part was versus everything else. I know we did replace a couple of the tubes to make sure that they were the same height. I think there was some question as to whether or not all of the ones on the end were the same height.
Yeah, I think I may have misspoke too. There was a big lightning strike that took out a lot of light bulbs along the taxiway above the two. And that's kind of what really depleted the inventory. And the majority of what we had to replace on 1432 was just some stones.
Okay. Any other questions?
Light bulb.
I move we approve. Second.
Any questions? Any questions from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is old business. Discussion request for approval of the acknowledgement of repairs document.
Several months ago now, it seems like we discussed the repairs that were needed on what we refer to as the East Hangar, which would now be the Eagle Avionics Hangar. At the time, we had taken bids. Jeff Air and the airport had worked a deal out, which is essentially what this is. It's the acknowledgement of the repairs and the rent reduction. The lowest bid amount was for $5,800. This document has been reviewed by Mike, or probably drafted by Mike, and reviewed by Jeff Air, and this is essentially taking that $5,800 off of their current rents coming up.
We already approved them.
We approved
to do it. We're just approving this document.
Yes, yeah, we approved it to do it. We're just approving the document and having it signed by you and Tom.
Any questions on that? Any questions from the public? Back to you, board.
I move we approve. I second acknowledgement of repairs.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. Next is new business. Discussion and request for approval on Dan McElroy assignment of lease.
Dan had approached us just last week about he's consolidating several of his hangars into one kind of trust. He's requesting for an assignment from Daniel McElroy to Harbor Hangar 700 LLC. We have reviewed it with Mr. MacGyver, who made a few corrections. That is his request. He's unable to be here. He's out of town this week.
Standard lease transfer.
Standard lease transfer, and I believe I did email that to the airport board prior to this.
Terms stay same and all that, right? Just
Yes.
the name change.
Yep, just to make sure.
Is it my business to know whether that is wholly owned by Dan? I mean,
I'm not sure that I asked.
It can be your business if you want it to be.
I know it was essentially at a request so that both he and his wife they've got several hangars in several states, and he's consolidating those hangars into one
Yeah.
LLC.
Okay, that's good.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public?
Well, I would move that we approve the change in the name for the.
Second, please. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? So it passes. Next is the tower report.
Ben has some water issues like the rest of us apparently. So he is not here today, but he did pass along his report. We had 4,020 operations in the month of June. That did surpass the 2014, actually quite a bit, all the way back to 2010. Total for the year so far is 19,623. If you look back, we go all the way back to 2008 since we had a number that high. No, I was on the wrong line. It's even back further than that. Well, just
2003.
yeah,
2003.
2003. So we're doing very well this year so far. And starting July, is it 15th, I believe, the CAP will start coming around again for their 2 week. And we anticipated a lot of operations due to that as well. That's all he's got.
Questions on that? Attorney's reports.
The one item that I had, Brian will send a copy around. This is a resolution for Brian to sign the closing documents on the property that Landmark is going to develop for Forcia. Brian will likely be signing the deed, a sales disclosure form, a few of those kind of documents. The one thing that I will bring up that we are still working on that property, there were some restrictions in the original deed in 1948 that related to its operation as an airport, maintaining the runways, flight clearance, those sorts of things. Those restrictions were released in 66 or 68 for a portion of the property when the board at that time wanted to develop a portion for industrial use but intended to continue using the rest for an airport. We have a copy of the board's correspondence to the FAA in 72 when the move was made up here, asking that no restrictions be in place anymore to continue operating it as an airport. We don't have a copy of the FAA saying, don't worry about it anymore. So that question has come up. Clearly the property's not on the FAA's active list. I don't think there's any real issues with it. It's just trying to figure out how we're going to document that so that for this Forcia property has the chance to maybe push closing a little bit. We'll likely sign our documents and have the title company hold them in escrow, so to speak. But this issue needs to be worked out, not just for this transaction, but really for the RFP going forward, because the same question is going to come up again. So we'll continue to sort through that, and I don't expect any problems with it. It's just kind of one of those loose ends that sits out there for 50 years until someone has to deal with it. So the resolution in front of you just says Brian can execute the deed and execute any other necessary documents, and that is also something the title company asked for so that they can clearly document who has the authority to sign.
And that's normal because for whatever reason, when there's real estate documents involved, and an actual employee of the city has to be the one that signs it. So in the past, Brian signed those things. I don't know where that comes from a legal standpoint, but that's a requirement. The ask in front of you is to approve the resolution. Any questions? Back to you, board.
The will of the board.
Take a motion.
I'm trying to develop the words here.
So this is just for approval for Brian to sign.
Correct. So I think if your motion is to approve the resolution for Brian to sign,
Yeah,
and then sign off on that, that's probably all it takes.
I would move that we approve that resolution.
Second. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed?
Aye.
You're opposed?
No.
Okay.
Aye.
Unopposed. 3-5 votes. Resolution passes. Thank you.
I have nothing else, although I do feel that Brian should be commended for going to a closing the day he's leaving for vacation. His wife may not be happy with me, but that's dedication.
Better than a day after you leave for
There
vacation.
you go.
Okay, farm manager's report.
I apologize, I didn't have time to make a report for you all. Everything's moving along pretty well. We have evidence of our melon crop. I talked to Mark a little bit ago. He started picking yesterday. Anticipates harvest on Mar Road will go into probably mid-August. And then the northwest up on River Road, that will probably go into September, picking melons up there. So he's real happy with the quality and the production they're getting right now. So that's all working out well. Pretty much all of our, there's about 7 acres of wheat that we haven't got harvested with all this rain. Otherwise, all the wheat is harvested, all the double crop beans are in. Wheat yields ended up, I haven't told all the tickets yet, but in the 90s, so a little bit better than what we talked about earlier. So, and with all this rain, we've had a nice little crop price spike, so we got some more crops priced. So we're looking pretty good.
Thank you.
So we just need to quit rain for a little while.
Some farm report I heard about in Indiana said expect a 20% loss in revenue. Was that correct?
I would say, you know, it's kind of hard around here. Honestly, I mean, we've got some bad areas, but the crops around Columbus, south of 70 pretty much are kind of ideal compared to northern Indiana, northern Illinois, most of Iowa. So I think in the general sense, yeah, the revenues for ag economy will be down. I think unless we continue to get all this rain, we start making the crop go down more. Locally, corn yields are going to be very good, it looks like. Soybeans yields are going to be maybe a little more affected, a little down, but locally we're in pretty good shape. So, but it's kind of a mixed bag because if you've driven around very much north of Indiana, you'll see a lot more water damage, a lot more crops not planted. Up around Rensselaer, some of the real good ground as of July 4th, there was numerous fields that still were not planted, had water standing. So there's a lot of preventive planting all around. Ohio's the same way a little bit. So we're kind of lucky where we are right now.
Thank you. Engineers report.
All right. Just a couple of things here. Under AIP 26, the construction, which is the phase 1 construction for the runway. The work is substantially completed, with the exception to, I think there were a couple of areas on the taxiways identified today that had a little bit of ponding that they're going to have to correct. And then also the intersection work, which I saw you guys have posted up in the lobby. The work for that is scheduled to begin on August 2nd, the August 2nd shutdown for both runways, and then we're anticipating that, being opened back up on August 10th. The grant for AIP 27 was received. This is the next phase of the construction. Due to the weather we've had, we are anticipating that work's not going to really get started until after the intersection work. It's my understanding that the condition of the haul route, it's in pretty bad shape. So until we're able to get that dried out a little bit more and back in a usable condition, they're really not anticipating being able to get that work started. We do have a pay request for our services as well as BNR's services, who's the inspector, and then Patriot as well. They are the construction testing firms. That's pay request number 4. This is under AIP 26. The total amount for that is $43,553.98. Broken down as listed there. The local cost to you guys is $2,177.28. At this point, I would request approval and signature on pay request number 4 for that.
So I move we approve. Well, let's discuss. Sorry.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the public? Back to you, board.
I move to approve that 2177.28.
I second.
You got to approve the whole thing. We pay the whole thing. We get reimbursed for everything else. The pay request is $43,533.98.
Okay. I move we approve the 43,553.98.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 One other thing I did attach to your guys' agenda, we did a preliminary airfield lighting investigation. This was to compare the existing incandescent systems with potential LED systems for both runways, runway 523 and 1432. I won't read the whole thing to you, but just to summarize a few things, what we were able to find, particularly with 523, was that there were some significant savings or reductions in your energy consumption. The reason for 523 being much higher than what we saw with 1432 is just the difference in the average loading requirements between your high-intensity fixtures and the LED fixtures for a high-intensity system. But with the initial investment, you're really, for both systems, probably not going to see a return until probably years 10 or 11. That's historically what we've seen with most of the runway lighting systems that we've done. You know, the FAA basically recognizes a 10-year design life. What we see is, I mean, what we've seen with previous systems, we get 20 to 30 years out of it. So, I mean, depending on what you think is a good return on investment, you know, if you see that within 10 years, I think, in my opinion, it's a pretty good investment on your part. Plus the savings that you're going to see annually, which we've charted here, and I do have to say, you know, a lot of the analysis that we've done is based on some gross assumptions. So really, to do a detailed analysis, you'll see these numbers probably change a little bit, but this paints at least a little bit of an image as to what you're going to see. So
I requested this.
I'm guessing we did.
Some of us have been looking around at a solar photovoltaic array to handle either one or two circuits, the big one or two circuits out here. The runway lighting looks the best, and what you see right away when you start looking at the numbers is you don't want to buy a big solar array to run incandescent lights if you ever think you're going to change them over to LEDs. So I asked Wolpert to look at that based on a single discussion with a single pilot named Rusty, who said, let's do it, pretty good.
So, from Cummins' perspective, we would speak against runway lights being converted because we've invested in technology in our aircraft that use thermal enhanced vision systems, and these lights would render those somewhat negligible, if not worthless, to us. Taxiways, we have no issues, and that'd probably be a wise investment, but for the runways, there's been a lot of studies that show that these conversions, what they're ending up doing at the large airports is now putting heaters in on the lights to create the thermal signature that you need to make these cameras effective again, which negates any savings that you would have in the conversion. So, for any consideration, we'd really like to talk about that and what makes sense. Maybe one runway, but not the other. Taxiways, I don't think are a big deal. But yeah, 523, that would hurt.
It's good to know.
Also, will they do a present value analysis on that? You base that on a 10-year or how?
generally we do. We did for this just to have conservative numbers, but if we were to do a detailed analysis, we would use the present value factor.
Just using some of the numbers that Tyler from, what's his last name?
Tyler
Bedwell came up with at Wolford, it looks like it's worth 9%. I mean, it's what
Heavily loaded at night, not during the day, so our offset of putting a solar on this is pretty minimal. We make 10 cents during the day, and we spend $100 at night, so it doesn't work out so
it works out well.
You think so?
Yeah. We looked at a 110 kilowatt PV array that pretty much erases electric bills on that circuit.
Okay. Well, that's the main way we've been studying it. So the alternative way of doing it.
Yeah, and Duke actually agrees this time, so it does look positive.
Good to know.
I haven't heard of the thermal technology and the issues with that. I don't know, does that stay on constantly? Because I know like with the heaters, for example, the Arctic kits, they only click on at a certain time or with certain temperatures, and I don't know if the thermal
Yeah,
kits.
I don't know if they're still trying to figure out how to adapt these LED systems. So now it'll work effectively with the enhanced vision cameras that are out there.
Yeah.
And then, so it's not solved yet.
Yeah,
And
well, especially when
so
we
it looks like a great investment from an energy efficiency standpoint and that direction, but you gotta remember what the operational use of the devices is, and you don't wanna do something to negate the reason they're there in the first place.
I think we especially don't want to do something and then 2 years later have to change it, right? I mean, if there was a LED plus heater that made sense to do in the first place, maybe you can evaluate the R on that, but my guess is it's gonna be astronomically expensive to put LEDs in and then 2 years later retrofit them with something different.
I think ADD actually has the technology now, but it's very expensive. And quite honestly, I mean, if we were talking about a taxiway lighting system, I mean, you'd see a return within 2 years, but, you know, runways much longer, you know, in some cases. So, I mean, the high intensity helps you, and, you know, you have 73 fixtures, you have a longer runway as compared to what we see at most GA airports.
At some point I heard though that you can't have a mix, and I mean, that may not be the case anymore because of the different style of how they look, they don't want mixed environments.
I don't know about that.
It may not be the case anymore.
On one circuit, so you could have an incandescent taxiway system and a LED runway or vice versa, but you can't mix the technologies on one circuit.
Well, that's technological. I meant from a aesthetic standpoint. It looks strange to see LED bulbs mixed with incandescent bulbs, and I think they, at least initially, the FAA was avoiding that scenario. Maybe that's a solved problem now too.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of taxiway LED systems, and, you know, incandescent runway systems, and the FAA hasn't really thought too much of that. So.
Well, I'd like to go ahead, we're just doing a feasibility study on this solar. I'd like to go ahead, assuming we keep our incandescents and run the numbers that way until we get some different information.
Good to go, John? Yep. Okay, any other questions from the board or the public? Okay, FBO report.
June was a pretty good month. The aviation day turned out really well. We did about 150 discovery flights and with 4 airplanes, and we were pretty excited about all the traffic that was here.
Did you get any students out of it? Do you have any?
Pardon?
Did you get any students out of it, you think? Or?
I think most of them were just what I call tire kickers.
Okay.
Thrill seekers. You know, we were doing all those aerobatics and everything.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh boy.
Yeah. So
That's your problem.
we sold 6,700 gallons of 100 low lead and over 16,000 gallons of Jet A in June. Andy is slowly but surely getting things moved to the other hangar. We've got Civil Air Patrol, their big gathering, I forget what they call that, but there'll be 2 weeks that they'll be here. And so during that time, they do a lot of avionics and maintenance work on their plane, so he's really working to get relocated over there so that he can have that facility, and it'll make it better for him and for us. I think Top Flight is slowly but surely moving in. I see they've moved in a lot of their parts stores, and they've got a lot of equipment over there. Just so you know, we have one charter tenant on the field in the transient hangar. Steve Scott from Air Midwest out of Valparaiso has a plane parked here every day, and stages a lot of charter work out of here, and we've made referrals and got some referrals for it that way. We also have Central Air Southwest, who's basing 2 aircraft here. Those 2 Aero Commanders sitting on the east end of the ramp. Those are our cargo flights, and they go out pretty much every night, and so they're buying quite a bit of gas from us, and that's really picked things up for us. During the runway closing, I'm assuming that we're still going to be able to have helicopter traffic. And so we're gonna do minimal staffing during that time, just to handle the helicopters, because we still may have, military traffic, and we have a few helicopters based on the field, and so, we felt that we would at least need minimal staffing during that time. If somebody has some other ideas, why I'm open to them, but, we'll probably only have one person here during the day to listen to that traffic. So that's about all we have right now, and we're, continuing to press on.
Great.
Thank you.
I had something else that in the FBO report as well. So we, I think as the airport board knows, we subscribe to something called DigiCast training. And this gives an opportunity for not only our airport board, our airport staff members to train, but also gives members of the ARF and also Jeff Ayer and the FBO an opportunity to train on various elements. Over the course of 2015, there's been one gentleman from Jeff Ayer Pilot Services who has excelled in his amount of training. And we wanted to recognize, in AENTN, DigiCast wanted to recognize him for his outstanding work. He's done over 150 of these trainings. And he's actually number 3 in the world at the amount of trainings that he's completed in 2015. So, Steve Sanders, I'd like to come up and give you this award.
Hey.
Thanks.
Can you move up to number 2 somehow?
Pick up the pace a little bit.
Yeah, there's a leaderboard somewhere, we need to see it. Any other questions for FBO report? Questions from the public? Okay, financial report.
Okay, on our July financial statement, our year-to-date expended is 59%, which is pretty good.
And again, we still have those other, that 80,000 and 20,000 that moved in and out. So.
Our cash balance with our June deposits, adding in our interest and taking out our debits, we should end the month with $2,553,066. Any questions on that? Okay. Profit and loss statements. We did have, you can see some grant money come in May and June, both. Fuel. And the additional load come in June.
So far, just so everyone's aware, so far we've had 268 transactions January through the end of June. Gallons sold was 7,540 gallons.
Yeah, how did we drop on during Aviation Day month?
Last year, we utilized a lot of Aviation Day, people who came in for Aviation Day for the fueling. This year, Jeff Ayer was very gracious in doing some fuel discounts so that the aircraft didn't have to move back and forth and cross the ramp.
Okay.
So,
oh, yeah.
And then last is our farming profit and loss.
Any questions?
I'm sorry, the Mar Road pivot used a bunch of power. That was just to get the seeds to sprout or something, right?
Get the plants seeded well and get them going, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just calibrating from the last couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wasn't that wet then.
No,
Didn't need it.
no, not at all.
Okay, thank you. Assistant Airport Manager's report.
A little bit of update with the runway 1432 resurfacing project. Due to weather, we're pushing that back to the actual planned intersection closure date, where we're going to close both runways. So we're now pushing it back to that date, August 2nd through the 10th. Both runways will be closed to do that intersection work. So that'll be the kickoff at that point. We'll continue with the project after that. But there's just been too much rain for the guys to come out, effectively do the work. The ground is too soft for the drain work to be done. So we just decided that's just the best thing to do moving forward. We don't have any constraints or projects, events that are carrying on later in the year, so pushing the project back was not a problem for us. The haul route that we have proposed to use coming off River Road to avoid bringing those trucks onto the airfield or on the west ramp, there may be some issues with that haul route. The ground is too soft and it's coming along a drainage ditch through the field, but the ground's soft, and as they were bringing the trucks through there, they found out that it may be eroding into the ditch. So we're working with the construction crews to come up with another haul route right now, which may involve utilizing the west ramp at this point. But whatever we do, we are trying to minimize the impact of the airfield. If we do come on the west ramp or Charlie, we'll definitely coordinate with the tenants in the area and what's going on. And again, the recycled millings from the project. Some of the things that we're going to repurpose those millings on will be a new ARF access road coming due north from the firehouse, coming behind the Cummins testing facility. It'll be just a straight shot. It'll really enhance the ARF response on the airfield, especially for the 3,000-gallon truck, instead of actually leaving the AOA and taking a couple turns and then coming back through the emergency gate. The 3,000-gallon truck can now just make one straight shot and immediately on the south ramp. We'll be rehabbing several farming access roads, making them more passable in inclement weather when the ground is soft like this. Rehabbing the runway 5 overrun area, and after that we'll be restriping those chevrons, and we'll rehab the glide slope access road that's utilized by the FAA technicians year-round. So we've had a number of lighting issues recently.
Before you leave that, Carlos, the mountain we have out here, you and I talked about it a month ago. Is that a dirt mountain or an asphalt?
That's the actual, right here behind Animal Services.
Yeah.
That's the actual asphalt millings right there.
Oh no, I mean the old mountain.
Yeah, it's
The
dirt.
old.
Yes, it's dirt.
That's dirt. Yes. And that's going to stay there indefinitely.
The idea of that was that whenever they removed the old 1836 runway in at the very north side, that they were going to utilize that dirt to go back in the concrete that was removed. That was the story I was told.
It's there for a future airport project, basically. Flood mitigation in Wellsboro. Real quick on that, the anticipation of using these millings. I mean, that's just anticipation, right? There's not actual money and projects already lined up to actually put those down, or are they going to get put down as part of this project?
As part of this project, yeah, the construction crews are going to do the ARP access road, and they'll put the millings down on these access roads, the agriculture access roads, and the glide slope as well. They've already done several roads on the east side, and we're going to have them continue and rehab some of the roads on the north and the west as well. And they're also going to, we're still in the works to also repave, completely repave the River Road access that goes
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, it goes from Honey Warren Drive out to River Road. Yeah. That goes almost straight to the Cummins. Yeah, okay, back to the weather issues. In the past month or so, there have just been such a tremendous amount of storms that have brought lightning, and it's really impacted the airfield. We've had several lightning strikes out on the airfield that have brought down some lighting systems. Just in the past month, we've had at different times, taxiway Delta, Bravo have been out. Currently, runway 1432 edge lights are out of service. PAPI and the reels are 1 and 1.4 are out. We believe that we've got the 1.4 reels and PAPI troubleshot to burned out transformer. The runway 1432 edge lights that are currently out looks like that's another burned out transformer on the windsock on the 1.4 end. And the runway 23 PAPIs and the AWAS are currently out. And that's due to a Duke outage. But because of these storms and these repairs, it looks like we're spending a significant amount of money on material, bulbs, transformers, and actually Quad J, a contractor comes out and troubleshoots some of the more significant damage. We've had these guys out now several times, and they were here almost for a week straight, 3 weeks ago, troubleshooting after that storm.
So the only lights that are on the vault, which has a generator, are the actual runway lights, not PAPI's.
Yeah, the PAPIs are kind of a different bird. Yeah, the PAPIs don't all come back to the vault. The 3.2 and PAPIs actually come back to the maintenance shop. There's breakers in the maintenance shop for those. The runway 2.3, AWAS and PAPIs, they're on their own circuit out there. There's a meter right out there by the glide slope, which is just straight by Duke out there. And then there's another breaker and transformer at the old spaceport building, which controls the 1.4 end as well.
Sounds terrible.
It is, and when we try to troubleshoot it and bring out, a contractor to do, and there's no drawings, of course, for it. So, when we're out there just in-house, and we have the new maintenance tech, we're trying to train him. It's just confusing for some folks who aren't familiar with the airport that everything on the airfield does not go through the hole.
Yeah.
And then the fact that a lot of our lighting systems are direct burial and 25, 30 years old. Anytime I think we get a lightning strike in the area, I think we're much more susceptible to damage than if we would have a newer system, installed conduit. I think we'd be a little bit more insulated from lightning strikes. It just seems like every time we get an electrical storm, something on the airfield goes down. Maintenance crews have been busy fixing up the Eagle Avionics hangar. I think that's what we're going to call it now instead of the old terminal or the old FBO. New gutters were installed by Royal, and then we have the spigots over for aircraft washing that are over by the T hangars. Those are fed off of a meter that goes nearby the Eagle Avionics hangar. There's a leak. There's an underground leak that city utilities have been helping us troubleshoot. We're getting that pinpointed. And there's also now a drain issue. It looks like the drain at that hangar has just been neglected for quite some time, so that might need to get sneaked out pretty soon. And the transit hangar, maintenance guys are getting ready to repair and re-stain and seal the brick that's on the bottom 8 feet surrounding the transit hangar. It looks like the hangar was erected in 1988, and it looks like the brick has kind of been left alone since then. There's a lot of stains on it, and a lot of the mortar. It's kind of in bad shape. So we're going to do some epoxy repairs on that. They've already power washed it, and then pretty soon we're going to reseal that. And it should have a really nice appearance afterwards. It's not just a clear sealant. It's actually got some pigment in it. It'll really clean that brick up. And then the maintenance crews are also painting some of the doors on that as well, on that hangar. In the last few weeks, we've hosted a USDA wildlife training seminar. It's an FAA required annual training. We bring in a USDA certified biologist, and we go over different how to identify wildlife. We learn about attractants on airports, how to eliminate attractants, and manage the habitat here to reduce wildlife attractants and to deter them when they are here. So we do this annually. We're required to do this, and we open up the training to different airports in the area. We received some support, some sponsorship from Cummins. They help us out providing lunch to everybody coming out for that. So So thank you.
Are we making any big mistakes on attractants?
Of course not. No. You know, we do a really good job. We have a wildlife mitigation plan that's finally been approved by the FAA. And we've been following that mitigation plan, and there's really nothing outside of just, you know, having 2,000 acres of open field out here that's really attracting any kind of significant amounts of wildlife. We don't have large amounts of deer or any kind of mammals on property. It's true, you know, every once in a while we will see a fox or something, but this year, actually, for the mammals, foxes, coyotes, I've barely seen, I don't think I've seen any coyote this year. I've seen no fox.
Well, if leaseholder X wants to plant a bunch of apple trees down here, that's a
It's
violation.
actually,
It is. Yeah,
and it's actually, it's a PUD of it.
yeah, it'd be the PUD.
And then July 7th and 8th, we hosted another FAA required training on fire safety. We opened that up to other airports through the Aviation Association of Indiana. South Bend, Kokomo, Salem, and Purdue actually attended this training as well. It was a 2-day seminar going over FAA 139-321 requirements on fire safety for fuelers at commercial service airports. We're required to receive that training because as the airport authority, we own and operate the self-fuel market. So this was also part of something that came up during the inspection.
So that satisfies their LOC?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was great. That was great training, and in partnership with the AI, that was a big success.
And Jeff Air were also really good co-sponsors with that. Appreciate their help.
And then the T-hangers crews are actively chipping away at layers and layers of old paint on that, and prepping it for a brand new paint job sometime in the top spring. That's all I have. Are there any questions? Any color requests on the T-hanger?
You said the AWAS is out because of a power outage too. Where is it located? Is it not? It's not in the terminal building.
The actual AWAS, the equipment's right there with the glide slope.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. That's where all the observation equipment is, and then it beams via radio back here to the computers in the pilot's lounge, and which is then relayed up to the terminal. But all that sits on a Duke meter. We've had a call in, but because of the current situation, they can't give us a time.
Okay, good enough. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, airport director report.
Following up on what Carlos was talking about during the runway closure, we've been able to partner with Centra Foundation on their Family Fun Bike Ride. They were supposed to host it the week after Aviation Day. It ended up getting rained out then, so they ended up wanting to host it on August the 8th. And since we were closed on August the 8th, we found that out, contacted them, and ended up having them move their bike ride from the Learning Center area here to the airport. So it will begin here at the airport property. It'll go 14 miles out into the community, end back here. The last stop is at the museum. And then we're going to have a DJ going throughout the day. We've got food throughout the day. We're also going to host the remote control, Bartholomew County remote control flyers. So they will be here Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. So they will be flying all of those from Delta, Alpha, Bravo, and then kind of back around a little bit. So it should be an interesting weekend. At the same time, from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, we're going to allow members of the public to bike ride and walk and run on the runway circuit. So it's been an opportunity, since we really won't have another opportunity to shut down the runways, hopefully again for the next 30 years. This is a good opportunity to get the public out and let them see actually what we do out here. So
Great idea.
I think we're going to take them Delta up Echo to Alpha 1, then down runway 23, and then come down the new section of concrete that's been completed at 3-2, and then back Delta in the south range. So come out August the 8th and have some fun with us on that. So we've had a few minor terminal building, kind of just little things. You notice that the light that went out here, so the that company's coming to fix that. A couple of door sticks upstairs. The letters on the front of the building are coming at the end of this month sometime, so we'll actually know what building you're walking into. So we're looking forward to kind of finishing up those things. Airport of the Year, we have to submit it by August the 3rd. Leslie, our intern there in the back, is working very hard on completing our Airport of the Year application. Quite a bit. We kind of made this not only for this year, but kind of this last 2.5 or 3 years that we've all been here. And it is turned out to be a bigger application than I think we all anticipated. We're real pleased with what we've accomplished. We've been working to gather all of those final documents for us when it comes to the RFP at Wellsboro. Those include the remaining appraisals, as well as the flood study information. Hopefully we'll have that. I think they say within the next 2 weeks we'll have all of that information. We did have one respondent from the Wellsboro RFP, so we will put a team together and we'll start planning for that accordingly. The farming audit that you all have already, we discussed it at the last airport board meeting. I've given you kind of the overview of that. Here was the full audit, so you can see all the information that's provided by Stephen Langford. He is a real estate sales and farm manager from Farmers National Company. At the end of the day, he says, you guys are really doing a great job. And kudos to Dave for the hard work that he's put in. And they're just really impressed by what it is that we're doing here. So if you'd like the full information, we'll keep this in the airport offices. And then lastly, before we get to that, we have Aviation Day posters. So if no one has those or you'd like one, we've got some leftovers. If you'd like some, they're over here. Feel free to take one of those. And then for the next couple of weeks, I won't be around. So if you need anything, feel free to contact Carlos or Caleb.
And contact me, I'll tell you to contact Carlos.
There you go.
I thought you were going to tell us that Aviation Day was a big success or a big failure, or
Oh yes, well of course it was a huge success. Our numbers, we ended up again looking at some aerials, running some numbers, and coming up with a total amount of 5,300 people that we think attended. That's up from last year, which was 3,800. Operations, we're slightly lower than we were last year, but I mean literally 2 handfuls lower, 820. 4 ops last year to 814 or something this year, so really within a pretty good number. I think everybody was very pleased. Overall, I think EAA chapter, you guys, I mean, with the Ford Tri-Motor, I don't know if you guys many rides as you normally get, but
No, I think it was reasonable on Saturday. The other days it was pretty slow there for a while. I think it was enough to break even for them. I don't think we lost anything. And the Young Eagles, it was I think we had 105 last year, and it was 83 or 4 this year. And again, I think there was a lot more activity, so there was not a traffic jam, but there was slower traffic getting out to the runway just because of how many planes were doing their thing.
If we ever do this in a future year, we certainly got to figure out, we had a major just traffic jam in the lobby areas. We've got to figure something out about how to move people around and really push people into certain areas where they should or shouldn't be. Touch a Truck was probably the biggest success. I mean, I had so many people talk about Touch a Truck and how much the kids enjoyed that area. Car show was a little light this year compared to last year. They had a couple of events up in Indy that apparently drew a lot of the GTOs too. Food-wise, I think everybody was real pleased. We didn't get the comments like we got last year. We didn't have enough food, so we had food and drinks sporadic throughout the property. A lot more fly-ins than the previous year. The aircraft just coming in for the day. We didn't have a lot last year at all, and this year we had, I don't know, how many would you gauge, 30, 40?
You'd probably say it really easily, but we were parking in the grass for a little while.
Oh, really?
We had a couple twins parked in the grass behind the Self Fuel. I was starting to get a little bit nervous, but it seemed like that was really the pinnacle of the flying. So I think at the most, I think we maybe had 20 to 30 on the ground, and I mean, last year, I'm not sure we had 5 fly-ins just for the air.
Steve was the only smart one, he took vacation that weekend, so. So overall, Aviation Day was, I mean, I think we would consider it a big success. The posters, maybe not such a success, I think we've found that. I know, well, we thought so too, but,
Well, I came as an attendant, I didn't provide any help whatsoever. Came in the morning, left, and then came back in the afternoon and left, and, with my kids and family, and everybody loved it. It was easy to get in and out, parking was a breeze, even though you had to park a little ways away, it wasn't hard. The streets were closed, so it was easy to get past everything. And, by the time we went to the bounce houses and then built a plane, and went and looked at the planes and came back, everybody had a great time. It was just hot, and everybody was thirsty and tired when they left, but it's a day anywhere for us, so.
that's it.
Thank you. Any questions? Any public remarks or comments? Hearing none, I will come back to the board.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
You're adjourned.